everybody. This is Peter Schiff again. It is Tuesday evening, February 24th, and I've just finished watching President Obama make his speech. I'm recording this from my home office on my laptop, so the quality is not quite as good, I think, as the recording I made earlier from my office, but I wanted to make sure and try to get a response up to this speech this evening. So bear with me on my laptop. In any event, the biggest problem with the president's speech, and there are a number of them, but it really reveals a total lack of understanding of basic economics and what makes an economy grow. In the beginning of his speech, the president talked about credit and the need to restore the flow of credit, that Americans need credit to buy things, and that without credit, our economy can't function. He basically referred to credit as the lifeblood of our economy. In actuality, it's been the cancer on our economy, consumer credit. The president simply thinks he can just restart the credit flowing and that everything will be fine. If people can just borrow money, they'll spend it. If they can spend money, we're going to have economic growth, we're going to have employment. This is all a bunch of nonsense. What the president doesn't understand is that credit comes into existence through savings. And the reason that the credit is gone is because the savings are gone. Initially we ran out of our own savings. And so through the securitization process, we were able to tap into the savings of the rest of the world. But the world now lost a lot of money making bad loans to Americans. And so the credit is dried up because the savings are gone, the money has been lost. And there's no way to get the credit flowing again without restoring the source of the credit, which are savings. So before Americans can go out and borrow money, somebody has to save it. We can't just skip the savings and go right to the borrowing and the spending. And of course, at this point, where we need the credit to flow to the extent that we can regenerate that credit through increased savings is we need the credit to go to businesses. We need it to go to producers so that we can make stuff. Unfortunately, President Obama thinks that if we just print enough money and put it into the banking system, that the banks will then make the loans and we're going to have economic growth. We're not going to have anything but inflation. The only result of the president's policies is going to be massive and unprecedented inflation in the United States. Barack Obama mentioned that what was the words he used? Wasn't the chickens come home to roost? I forget the time to pay the piper or the day of reckoning has arrived. He's wrong. That day hasn't arrived yet. It's coming. It's coming soon, but it hasn't arrived. It's going to arrive when the money we print no longer has any value, and when the world won't continue to buy our paper to finance all these misguided stimulus packages and bailouts. It's interesting that a good portion of President Obama's speech had to do with the grandiose plans that he has for new government spending. Just like all the presidents who preceded him, he spoke a lot about the need for government to assure that all Americans have proper education, that we all have proper health care, without even realizing that we're already broke from attempting to provide education and health care and other government services. This is not a time to be talking about these grandiose ideas and the things that government should be doing for the country. What we need is for government to shrink. We need government to get out of the way. They've done enough damage. And we don't need the president talking about getting credit flowing so Americans can go out and buy more cars. As I've already said, the last thing we need to do is buy more stuff. We don't need any more cars. We've bought too many cars. We've got Americans who've got 6- and 7-year mortgages on their cars. We don't need to buy any cars. We need to make cars. We need to make a lot of things. But we're not going to make anything until we have savings. And we're not going to have any legitimate savings with interest rates 0. And we're not going to have any savings if the government is out there borrowing it all and crowding everybody out. The only way we're going to have savings for business is if governments and consumers stop borrowing. But Barack Obama is not going to let this happen. He is determined to create spending out of thin air, to create credit with the crank of a printing press. And any country that's tried this, it's led to disaster. And I can assure you that it will be no different for the United States. And Barack Obama probably has absolutely no idea what he and the Congress are about to do to this nation. And of course, it's not just the Democrats, it's the Republicans as well. They got the ball started. They supported the stimulus and the bailouts under Bush. They supported the bailouts for Wall Street. And now they can't stand in the way of the theoretical bailouts for Main Street. Under this new way of thinking, two wrongs make a right, but unfortunately, there's no one in Congress with any credibility because no one stood up against the initial wrong. So unfortunately, I think the ball is in motion. There's really nothing we can do but sit back and watch as the Congress and the President completely destroy what's left of this economy and destroy whatever value is left in our money. I know the dollar has risen somewhat in the last 6 or 8 months. I'm confident that rise is going to come to an end, particularly in light of the economic policies that we are pursuing and that we are likely to pursue in the months and years ahead. You know, it's interesting that Barack Obama also talked about the need to balance the budget and not to saddle our economy with debt, as he's doing just that. You know, this is an old political trick. I think it was even back in the Eisenhower administration or Nixon or somebody who said that a deficit is a down payment on a surplus. That the way to balance the budget is to run a big deficit now to get the economy going. And then when the economy is strong, we'll have a surplus. This is all a bunch of nonsense. Again, this is like somebody who's constantly saying they're going to start a diet next week or next month, but they want to keep stuffing their face now. If you really want to start a diet, the time to do it is right now. You don't keep eating and say, I'm going to start next week. You start the diet, if you're serious, right then and there. And if we really wanted to bring down the debt, we'd start right now. We wouldn't run up the deficit first on the pretense that later we're going to bring it down. We'd bring it down right now. Now, what Barack Obama is trying to say, that no, we need the deficit now because we need to jumpstart the economy. The deficit isn't going to jumpstart the economy. It's going to put a roadblock in front of the economy. It's going to short-circuit the economy. This is not a stimulus. This is a depressant. There's absolutely nothing the government can do to revive genuine economic growth. In fact, everything that it is doing is going to undermine any legitimate economic growth that might have otherwise taken place. In his efforts to redirect our scarce savings back into consumer spending and revving up the printing presses and just putting money into the banking system and directing the banks to make loans so that Americans can take those loans to the department store and buy more stuff and to the auto showroom and buy more cars is going to lead to disaster. It's going to lead to massive, massive inflation. As soon as the temporary factors that have been pushing prices down are over, and they will be over soon, all we're going to have is the inflationary factors that are pushing prices higher. And unfortunately, the worse the government makes the economy through its misguided attempts to reflate the bubble, the bigger the problems are going to become, and the more the government is going to reach for these same solutions. Again, the analogy I've used is for the government attempting to put out a forest fire with gasoline. And the more gasoline they pour on the fire, the bigger the flames, the more the fire rages. And unfortunately, the politicians can't make the connection between the gasoline they're pouring and the fire that they're igniting, and so they keep reaching for more and more gasoline. The end result is going to be an inferno that ravages everything in its wake. And unfortunately, what's going to burn is the U.S. economy. And I wish that wasn't the case, but I don't see any other result for this policy. All we can do, again, as individuals is protect our own wealth and try to make sure that our family members protect their wealth. But most Americans are
watching.